The one thing about being involved as a musical reactor in this business is you are always finding artists that you should have found many years ago. And this particular group, called Of Monsters and Men, are part of that cycle that I'm continuously finding artists that have been around for years, and I'm only now tripping up over their music and thinking, I wish I had discovered their music years ago. But better late than never, because they have done a reissue of an album 10 years ago when they first started. But firstly, to all the other people, because I'm sure I'm not the only one, whom are not so familiar with this group, but would like to be, I introduce everybody today to Of Monsters and Men. They're Icelandic indie folk rock band formed in Reykjavik in 2010. The members are lead singer and guitarist Nana Bryndís Hilmarsdóttir, singer and guitarist Ragnar Raggi Börjesson, and lead guitarist Brynja Leifsson, drummer Arne Rosenkrantz Hilmarsson, and bassist Christian Pál Kristjánsson. The band won in 2010 the Music Runa, which is, I'll give you details of this if it comes up, is an annual music competition held in Reykjavik in Iceland, and an annual Battle of the Bands competition in Iceland they won as well in that year. In 2011, Of Monsters and Men released an EP titled Into the Woods, and the band's 2011 debut album My Head Is an Animal reached the #1 position in Australia, Iceland, Ireland and the US rock and alternative charts, while peaking at #6 on the US Billboard 200 album chart, #3 in the UK and top 20 of most European charts in Canada. And its lead single, Little Talks, was an international success, reaching the top 10 in most music charts in Europe, including #1 in Ireland, Iceland, and #1 on the US alternative songs. So Of Monsters and Men also won the 2013 European Border Breakers Awards. So they've won many things, and I'm only hearing of them 10 years later. But I don't feel so bad, because what they released 10 years ago, they've released now. Because on June the 22nd, the band released the premiere of the Screening 2 tour at the 2022 Tribeca Film Festival as a celebration of the 10-year anniversary of the band's release of My Head Is an Animal, which today's track comes from that album of 10 years ago, but it's been revamped. And this was followed by a special live acoustic performance of their new songs Visitor, Happiness and Lonely Weather by the band. So that's what they were doing in June of this year. But if I go back, because we have to go back to the actual album itself, just give me My Head Is an Animal, which I'm going to just touch on if it allows me. And if I haven't got time, and I'm looking at the time because I don't want to waste time either, I've got so many things in front of me, everybody. It's so live, it couldn't be any more live than this. But just trust me that when I say this particular song today, that is called Of Monsters and Men, and it's called Phantom. There's 2 videos out, I believe, at the moment of this, just celebrating this particular album that they did 10 years ago, and it's a big thank you to the fans as well by giving them special additions to the video. So let's get going. I believe they're not in it visually, but the visuals come in another way, so I'm very intrigued. What have they done 10 years later? I'm just intrigued because I heard a couple of tracks from this group, and all I can say is, from Iceland you melt the ice with the warmth and the heat that comes from you. It's orgasmic, the voices that you hear. So I'm sure this is going to be pretty special. Take it away, Of Monsters and Men, and let's enjoy.
All this time wasted and all this time gone, you are still waiting on me. Every time you leave the house, remember you're not safe, but you are hardly ever. And all those times that I could swear I heard you speak, you spoke in such low voice of how if you could choose, you would choose not to feel, 'cause you are hardly ever happy. Sometimes I find myself standing in those stairs with eyes so blank and unsure, realizing this is not where I want to be and not where I want to go. And I don't mean to somehow always disagree, but I feel that you do not see. In order to love, you have to be all you can be. And mostly you have to love yourself. Still waiting on me. Oh, but if I could choose, I would choose not to feel, 'cause I am hardly ever happy. I am hardly ever happy. Ever happy.
Now throw yourself over the cliff. You talk too much. So that's why we're going straight into the lyrics. But congratulations, guys. You've been in the business, even through a pandemic, creating wonderful revamps of your songs. My Head is an Animal is an album everybody should have. That came off it. That was the revamped video and version of it. Congratulations again. 10 years is no mean feat when it's a cutthroat business, and you've survived to do incredibly well, and I'm delighted to have tripped over you. I was completely looking for something else on YouTube, came across images, came across a video, followed through and went boom, and now look, you're on my channel. Welcome. Let's get into these lyrics. The lyrics begin. All this time wasted and all this time gone, you are still waiting on me. Every time you leave the house, remember you're not safe, but you're hardly ever. Continues, all those times I could swear I heard you speak. You spoke in such a low voice, of how if you could choose, you would choose not to feel, because you are hardly ever happy. So in the beginning it opens up with you're hardly ever, and in the second it tells us you're hardly ever happy. You're still waiting on me every time you leave the house. Remember you're not safe. And what they mean by that in verse 1 is when you leave the house and you're gone, remember there's always someone's spirit following you, a pair of eyes looking at you. You're not on your own. And I don't think it's said in a harmful way, but I think it's said more or less like we're together, don't be doing any. I still think there's uncertainty in the relationship of these lyrics between two people, and it's more or less saying I've got my beady little eye on you, so if you go too far I'll know what you're up to, because you'll feel it and you'll know. Although today you only have to text a friend and trace them by phone the location, but in the lyrics it's all about those connective feelings and energies that make us almost phantom-like, that we can't be seen but we can be felt wherever you are, and no matter how far you run, we're there. And I love the coloration and the fixation of the phantom floating from the female figure to this almost disparaging wheel going around and around, and like I said at the very end, spinning around, almost giving you that hypnotic effect. These are what the lyrics are about. No matter where you go, I'm going to hypnotize you. I'm going with my energies, with my feelings. I'm going to entrap you, because that's where you belong. That's where I want you to be. So it's quite a controlling aspect, but we'll continue. It says in verse 3, sometimes I find myself standing on those stairs with eyes so blank and unsure, realizing this is not where I want to be and not where I want to go. So you've got the person saying, even in her own life, she dreams of another world. She doesn't know where it is, but she wants her feet to start walking, and instead of talking and writing lyrics about it, she wants to go forward with her life. But her eyes are blank, because she's not filled with emotion of where or when or how it's going to happen. She just doesn't know. And it's a bit like the relationship. I'll keep my bitty little eyes on you proves that there is an emptiness and untrustworthiness about her life in general, because she's standing on the stairs with blank eyes. And if that's the case, then you think too much and you act too little, as far as I'm concerned. So it goes into number 4. And I don't mean to somehow always to disagree, but I feel that you do not see. This is where people go wrong. You know, the amount of people, even in artists that write lyrics similar to this and say, you don't see what I want, I don't see. Of course they don't. I don't see what my partner wants to see. I don't feel what he wants to feel. I don't want to go where he wants to go. I don't want to be sitting in amongst all of his family and friends and be sitting there. I'm a recluse, so I prefer to be step back. You go on. I'm always encouraging him, do your thing, but don't expect me to be part of. But the amount of people that expect to be almost sewn to the hip, spiritually, mentally, physically, to the person that they choose, simply because they have sex with them. It boils down to the sexual part, where they feel, I've given up my body, my mind, my soul to this person, so I expect. What the hell do you expect? You shouldn't expect anything in a relationship. You should be enjoying it every day for what it's worth. Simple. So it says, in order to love, you have to be all that you can be. So the pressure's on the other person. You have to be all that you can be. In other words, you have to prove yourself to me. What the hell is that about? I would never sit in front of my partner and expect him to prove himself in front of me. Ever. I wouldn't expect that. And I wouldn't do it in front of him. And if he did expect that, it would be because he's Spanish. Adios, amigo. Lo siento por ti, pero bueno, me voy. In other words, I'm gone. And then it says, oh, but if I could choose, I would choose not to feel. Well, if you choose not to feel and you stand on stairs with blank eyes, you're halfway there, I'm sorry. And if you're that kind of person, then you're practically dead. You're emotionless. And if you become emotionless, who the hell would want you to love you and waste all their energy on you if that's how you feel about everything? It's almost like lyrics are displaying paranoia here, and that irritates me, because if people are like that, they expect, they want, they desire, and the other person has to be, must be, and I'll keep my beady eyed and I'll be the phantom. I would turn around and say, how dare you put all that on me and you give nothing. So it's almost like horses starting on the race, and all the other horses have gone ahead of this one particular horse who won't leave the paddocks, and she's probably sitting there filing her nails going, why should I leave? What have you done to prove to me you loved me? There's far too many of those people about as well, and if you're like that, just be on your own. Don't go and buy a goldfish and sit all day with your blank eyes watching the goldfish go around the bowl, because there's no hope for you. Unless you love yourself, fill yourself with love to project love to another person, how the hell or how dare you expect that to come back to you and somebody to prove to you? No, 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 it works both ways in life, everybody. So it says, I'm hardly ever happy. I'm not surprised. Go get a haircut, revamp your hair, turn around and get somebody to kick you up the arse and tell you start living a life. You need to do something, but don't go into a relationship expecting a person to do that and be a phantom following them, because those shadows that you feel that you're walking around going are your own worst enemy from within, haunting you and making you go crazy. It's your own inner darkness that's happening there. Good luck in your journey if you're like that. And if you find that your partner is like that, turn around, put on a pair of running shoes and get the hell out of that relationship. There's an old saying in Ireland, each unto their own. And in that situation, that person needs to be in their own till they get their mental balance with their physical balance with their heart and what they feel in their soul. And that, folks, can take years. So thank you for listening. Wonderful song. Loved Of Monsters and Men. Hope you liked my introduction. If you do, press the buttons and please like, subscribe, and tell me of an Of Monster and Men song that you would like me to react to. And I certainly will over the next couple of weeks. Take care for now, and bye.